If you go back to my original video, my goals, horribly pixelated video, very low quality, you'll see that I said that some of my goals were to talk about philosophical concepts, which is mostly what I've been doing so far, but I also mentioned I was going to talk about science and math. Now, I briefly touched on science. I did not really touch on mathematical concepts too much. So today I'm going to be dispelling the myth that 0.9, repeating, and 1 are not the same number. I'm going to demonstrate to you that they are the same number. Now, I'm going to use this, I'm going to do a more mathematically rigorous way of going about this than usual. What I'm going to do is, first of all, there are two common misconceptions that I've heard about that are the main reasons why people think that 0.9 repeating is equal to 1. Well, there's three common misconceptions, but one of them I can't really explain here in a couple of minutes. That's limiting processes. So I'll talk about two of them. One is that that a lot of people don't understand that there are multiple ways of writing the same number that are all equivalent. Now, this can easily be demonstrated in the case of other numbers besides 1. 1/2, 2/4, 3/6, 4/8, these are all identical. So is 2/2, 3/3, 9/9, and 86/86. In the first case, all those things were equal to 1/2, which can also be written 0.5 in another way. In the second case, all those things were equal to 1. 0.9 repeating is also equal to 1. But those are examples that there are multiple correct ways of writing the same number. So that dispels that little myth. One of the other major reasons is a lot of people seem to have this stuck in their head that there's a last 9. There isn't. There's no last 9. The 9s continue on forever. If you started writing 9s now, you could die and you still wouldn't even be close to being done. If the entire history of the universe, if every atom in the universe represented a 9, and if every atom in the universe represented a 9 every second, so in other words, if every second every particle represented a 9, then the entire history of the universe could still not play out the total number of 9s. You could never play out the total number of 9s. The total number of 9s is infinite. It doesn't stop. Infinity is not a number, it's a concept. And the concept here is the 9s don't stop coming, ever. Now, because the 9s never stop coming, there are two different ways that you can demonstrate that this is exactly equal to 1. There's the Dedekind cut approach, and there is the infinitesimal approach. Now, in hyperreal numbers, you can deal with infinitesimals and stuff. But when you're dealing with real numbers, which clearly 1 and 0.9 repeating, they're real numbers, or at least they can exist in the real field. There's no such thing as non-zero infinitesimals. And so, the difference between 1 and 0.9 repeating is infinitesimal. Therefore, the difference between them is 0 if you're in the real number field. Now, you can look up hyperreal numbers, and there are some instances where it can be said that infinitesimals do exist besides 0, but the hyperreal numbers are a lot more confusing. Now, if you want to get into the more mathematically rigorous approach, you're going to have to look into Dedekind cuts. The Dedekind cut approach looks at all real numbers as the set of all rational numbers less than them. For example, 1 represents not just 1, it represents all numbers, all rational numbers less than 1. The set of all rational numbers less than 1. That's the Dedekind approach. Okay, so what are all the numbers less than 1? Well, between 0 and 1. Well, besides all the fractions, or besides all the decimals up to 0.9, and all the ones in between these, you have 0.9, 0.99, 0.999, 0.9999, and 0.99999, and so on and so on and so on, as long as you have a finite number of 9s. Okay, now what are the set of all numbers less than 0.9 repeating? Well, 0.9, 0.99, 0.999, 0.9999, 0.99999, and so on and so forth, exactly the same as the set of numbers less than 1. Therefore, by the Dedekind cut approach and by the non-existence of non-zero infinitesimals in real numbers approach, those are just two ways that you can show that 0.9 repeating is exactly equal to 1. So I hope that this has dispelled at least a little bit of the mythology. I'm going to put up further reading on the subject. If you really want the extreme mathematically rigorous approach, Wikipedia has a couple articles on infinitesimals. If you're really interested, you could look at hyperreal numbers. That's a lot more complicated than I have the time to get into here. You can look up the article on 0.999, but you should also look up limiting processes. I mean, if you're really that curious about it. But I just want to dispel the myth, and it has been mathematically demonstrated countless times. In mathematics, unlike science, in science there's no such thing as absolute proof. There's objective truth, but you cannot be absolutely certain that any of your theories are correct. You can be pretty damn sure, but there's always the chance that they're not. Math is not that way. Given a certain set of axioms, natural consequences must follow from deductive logic. And so in mathematics there is absolute proof. You don't talk about proof in science, you talk about evidence. In math, you don't talk about evidence, you talk about proof. And so it has already been proven that 0.9 is exactly equal to 1, given the axioms of real numbers, and given the Dedekind cut. I mean, there are multiple ways to prove it. It's just a lack of ability to conceive. It's really just a result of not looking at the problem in the right way. A lot of the paradoxes in mathematics are just our limitations as human beings being incapable to grasp the infinite. And I'm not above that, and neither is anybody watching this video. Neither was David Hilbert or Carl Friedrich Gauss. Nobody is above having difficulties conceiving the highest structures of mathematics. Nobody is above having difficulty with that. But most of the paradoxes and problems in mathematics either result from not having enough knowledge about the subject or having human limitations and being incapable of seeing past them. But anyway, I'm going to post up over in that area. I'm going to post up some links to some Wikipedia articles on further reading in the subject.